Welcome back to a very late episode of Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Darling. I'll show you see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhollow today. There's not really much of a reason that this episode is kind of late. It was just, obviously, I wasn't here yesterday and the day before. Hanging out with some friends. There was a big meet-up. It was a way of a time, and I won't go too much into it because, it's personal life. But, and then we come to today. I already came home, I suppose, like yesterday. So it's not like I wasn't here or anything. I just was like, I was just putting it off. I was like, I didn't really feel like recording. And then it just got pushed back, and now it's 10, and I was just like, oh, I forgot I didn't record Animal Crossing. Because normally by this point I've recorded it and it's already like uploaded, and I was going to go, check my end screen and put it on because the video's finished processing. But I was like, oh, I didn't even record it today. So that was just, whoops, slipped my mind. So here we are. Good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 10 p.m. on Monday, May 23rd, 2022. Sahara's visiting. I'm also wearing a hoodie. Because it's the temperature around now, at least here in the UK, is a little bit of a weird mix, because it's kind of like, it's obviously not cold enough to be considered like wintry sort of months or cold months anymore, but it's starting to get up basically hot enough to be considered hot, kind of, but only some days. And most explicitly so, I can't remember which day it was. Was it Saturday or Sunday? One of the days it was actually like extraordinarily hot. Hello, Sahara. I suppose we'll buy stuff from you. It was actually quite like, maybe not exceedingly hot, but it was a lot hotter than you might imagine. So I started wearing like t-shirts and that sort of thing, and today I woke up expecting it to also be kind of like warm, and it did not turn out to be all that warm. So now I just like popped a hoodie on and everything. I don't normally, actually I guess it's not really called a hoodie. It kind of depends. It's like a zipped hoodie, a zipper hoodie. Because, I don't know, I feel like when most people say hoodie, most people imagine a pullover hoodie. But I don't know, I imagine either the zip-up hoodie or the pullover hoodie. I don't really make much of distinction. It's kind of like a tortoise and a turtle situation. I think that's right around. It's like, all turtles are tortoises, or something like that. Or a square rectangle, I don't know why I didn't use that analogy. That analogy is probably a bit clearer. At least clear in my eyes. But yeah, so here we are at 10 p.m. Of course, we don't usually record this late, but, sometimes it happens. Not normally, because I forget. It's a very rare situation where I've forgotten to actually record, and normally it's just because like I was busy earlier, or I was like, I just really didn't feel like it. Well, I suppose it's a bit of column A, a bit of column B, because I was like I didn't really feel like it around the time I usually record, like 5 to 6ish. I did eat dinner quite late as well. I ate it around like 8ish. It's a bit later, sometimes I guess what it is, it's sort of just like the social fatigue coming afterwards, after like a huge like get together and that sort of thing. I'm not actually sure if that's particularly true. I mean, you might not be too surprised to hear that I'm like introverted, but I'm not that introverted, I suppose. It's sort of like a weird mix where I really love hanging out with people, but I just can't keep up that energy all the time. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before and that sort of thing, but obviously things aren't quite as black and white as like, are you introverted, are you extroverted? I think a lot of people probably fall on some sort of like arbitrary scale, if that even is a scale in the first place. I think things are a bit more complicated than just like a bunch of sliding scales or something. Humans are complicated people. You can be one thing or another and change back and forth, or depends on the situation. Did we not get enough tickets to? No, we did it. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, people could go back and forth on scale and that sort of thing. I would say when I was younger, I was considerably more introverted, I think. But as I got older, it was less I was more introverted, more that I was just like, I don't really know, because it's not. I guess I was kind of shy, but I wasn't like extraordinarily shy. I suppose it's just more like I don't know. It's difficult to say because it's I guess it's partly shyness and partly like I didn't really like small talk, I suppose, all that much. It's more like I didn't like I was reasonably awkward in that like very beginning sort of stage of friendship, but I was fine at like either ends of just being like acquaintances, fine, like kind of okayish friends is like the awkward part, and then good friends and close friends I was completely fine with, that sort of thing. I mean, I was probably not all that weird. It's, there's always a little bit of an awkward phase in friendships and that sort of thing. Nowadays I feel like I'm better, and I mean, I say better, it's more like I understand myself a lot better is probably what I mean by that. I don't know why I'm going with this conversation, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't think it's going anywhere compared to my other sort of like personality sort of conversations I tend to have. But yeah, I don't know, introverts and extroverts, and I don't, like, I hesitate to say something so like, something which is so like binarily divisive, right? there's lots of definitions of like introverts and extroverts that just have evolved over the years. You know, it used to be like introverts just meant shy and extroverts just meant human, like really like outspoken about something. But you know, definitions like that get rather tricky because human beings tend to not be so easily categorized in small boxes, as much as we like to, as much as we like to believe, because you know, categorizing things as a very sort of human pattern recognition sort of thing. I never realised there was a water pump over there, to be perfectly honest, and I'm not sure if we've actually come here this late at night before, but maybe we have, I'm not really sure. Excuse me, let's make sure we just put the things we need to away. Wasn't it, hold on, wasn't it one of our villagers' birthdays? Did we miss it? We might have missed it, I don't honestly recall. Yeah, but introversion, extroversion, I don't know. Now, nowadays, a much more common definition I think people tend to use is introverts tend to recharge by, like, being by themselves, and extroverts tend to sort of recharge by being, like, around other people. Which, you know, I'm not going to say how true or not true that is in relation to the entire world population, because, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, I haven't really done, like, sort of research into that sort of thing. I mean, part of me is sort of just, like, I can see that, but it's sort of just, like, I feel like it's a bit reductive in a sense, but it's a bit difficult for me to say because it's not like I don't think like by those definitions I'm probably introverted. I probably do tend to recharge by being by myself. I do enjoy being by myself, but I do enjoy being around other people a lot as well. And I feel like just saying I'm introverted in that sort of sense gives it like I don't know. I guess because it's already a loaded word in the first place of connotations. I'm just like I feel like it's not very descriptive to myself entirely. Yes, I suppose I am introverted, and like I do prefer to be by myself, and I find it restful to be by myself. But it's not like I don't like saying energized. Sounds like is like constantly being around people is constantly draining, and I'm just gonna like pass out. But it's also like, you know, doing anything like exciting is gonna make you tired eventually. I guess it kind of like, I don't know. Through that definition alone, it makes it sound like extroverts are like sort of self-perpetuating machines if it were other extroverts, right? But, you know, I don't really know if that makes sense or doesn't make sense, to be honest. And plus there's people out there who are just like, I'm an ambivert, right, you know? It's sort of meant to be like an in-between between an introvert and extrovert, which I don't really know. Because I'm not sure if I really recharge by being by myself necessarily. I think I'm more recharged by doing not strenuous things, which sounds so dumb to say, but it's very obvious, isn't it? You know, there's times I've been by myself and it's been draining, you know? You know, if I'm like intense studying or something, you know, sometimes like concentrating on, okay, maybe not concentrating on something, but like I'm trying to think of a good example, which I can't really think of at the top of my head. But you know, have the stereotypical thing with like introverts is like they love curling up with like a good book or something, and you know, like drinking coffee or tea or something like that. And while I do like sort of cozy atmosphere and that sort of thing, I don't really tend to read books all that often because it's not the sort of thing I do to recharge. I think a lot of the time, certainly. And it's not like extroverts out there don't like to recharge themselves by like, you know, binging Netflix or something. I mean, I don't mean specifically about Netflix as like an extroverted thing, or, you know, reading books as an introverted thing. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to talk about generalist activities, which is stereotyped of one half or the other. And similarly, I can feel very energized after doing something like, you know, social and hang out with people. It just kind of depends what the situation is. Like, you know, I don't mind clubs and that sort of thing. I've talked about this before, you know, like, my biggest problem with clubs, you know, things like back in university days, is not really the fact that it's like, like dancing party, you know, drinking alcohol, having a fun social time. It's more the fact I can't hear anything in a club, which is the most annoying thing to me. It's very difficult to communicate. Well, I find it very difficult to communicate in clubs, especially because, you know, I guess in social encounters I like to communicate and that sort of thing. I like to have, like, simple chats of things, you know. My idea of social encounters, you know, my perfect ones, you know, I like picnics, like, you know, the idea of tea parties, and I can't say I've ever been to a tea party, I'll be perfectly honest, but casual things in that sort of regard. But I also really like very energetic, exciting things, you know. I think people are often surprised to hear how much you know, I'm kind of a thrill seeker in some sort of sense, and I love roller coasters, and, you know, the thought of doing like exciting things like that sounds incredibly energizing to me. The thought of like bungee jumping, you know, you talk to some of my extroverted friends, they'll be like, that terrifies me. I would not do that. It would probably be draining if anything. But, you know, the idea of me doing that, you know, stereotypically introverted, I'd be like, whoa, okay, that sounds awesome. That sounds like it would hype me up probably for like the rest of the week if I did something like that. I'd probably constantly be thinking back to that moment. And it's a dangerous thing, I think, when you come to these sort of like personality sort of classifications, is you try and, rather than doing the actual case of classification is you look at your data and then try and find patterns within it. I guess it's just me coming from a very statistical and analytical standpoint again, which, you know, I suppose is a bit onto my blood in some sense. Rather than trying to actually find the patterns within the data, it's more like you trying to fit the data around the patterns that you want to emerge, right? Because I think it's very easy to hear that being like, oh, you know, oh, you would be charged up by doing like bungee jumping or something like that, and then, you know, you like try and twist it, be like, oh, you know, bungee jumping is a solo activity, so, you know, that counts as introversion or something. I was like, oh, it's not about the energy or whatever. I was like, oh, you know, it's only a temporary charge, you know, some things may charge you more than other, or maybe you just like go into a deficit of like energy or something. I'm like, I don't know if it's all that complicated, really. I think, you know, ironically, the more simple explanation is it's more complicated than that. Because, you know, I think most people probably... okay, sorry. This is where you take a step back, you know, and you take my usual stance on these sort of things. Is these sort of like personality classifications are more like abstractions of actual ideas. Because I'm not here to hate on like personality classifications. You know, I am a human too. I like symbol recognition and pattern recognition, that sort of thing. And classifications can be an easy way to sort of like broadly sort people into groups and that sort of thing. Whether you need to or not, yeah, you kind of don't really need to, I suppose, but it's a thing like Myers-Briggs and that sort of thing. I don't think Myers-Briggs is the be-all, end-all definition of that sort of thing, but I do believe there are patterns in human beings which you could probably pick out similar patterns and then give rough groups in a certain sense. And what I mean by rough groups is not that these groups have like hard bordered defined lines, but more like a 16-dimensional Venn diagram or something. Where it's a sort of thing where it's like, you know, rather than being like, oh, which of these personalities are you? It's more like some of these personality like trope or profiles, I suppose, will fit you better than others and that sort of thing. And because there are some people out there which probably fit certain Myers-Briggs personalities to a T. And there's lots of people out there who also, you know, don't really fit, you know. To use Myers-Briggs as an example, I'm often classified as INFJ, but, you know, I don't entirely fit an INFJ. There are things I have overlaps with, you know, ENFJ and INTJ sort of things, but, you know, and it's, you know, personalities and human beings are far more complicated than that sort of thing. And I don't mean to say this as if you don't know that. Of course you do know that. Well, I like to think most reasonable people will come to that conclusion that personalities are far more than, you know, just like 16 different dimensions. But then, you know, sort of go a step further where, you know, you take those sort of personality classifications not as the true dimensions of human personalities, or, you know, I was going to say genome, but genome's not really the right word, I suppose. And then more just sort of like a general abstraction to help talk about certain patterns you might find in personalities, etc., etc. But introversion, extroversion always does strike me as a bit of a weird one, I suppose. Because I feel like most people tend to be like, okay, not most people, but, you know, most people tend to be hyped up by doing things. It sounds stupid, but recharge them and then, you know, no, sorry. Expend energy by doing things that are draining and then recharge by doing things which are not draining. That sounds so dumb. But what I basically mean by that is like with stereotypical like solo activities or social activities, I don't think are the be all end all. You know, there are some social activities which will certainly charge up, I think, introverts, and there's some, you know, like introverted activities which should definitely sort of charge up extroverts and that sort of thing. You know, basically what I'm trying to say is like probably everyone's like an ambivert or whatever. You know, they have a mix of like solo activities which will charge them up and solo activities which drain them, etc., etc., etc. I guess it's just, you know, I don't really have a problem with a classification. Oh, hello, Scorpion. I heard scorpions don't actually sting you if you don't have a bug net out, so, you know. I'm just going to let you do your thing, Scorpion, because look, we already got a Scorpion model. It's a tarantula we need. I guess I'm more just like criticising the misuse of these sort of classifications, you know. And anything which I sort of becomes self-limiting in a way, you know, I sort of look under with the eye of scrutiny. The idea that, you know, you might relate to one definition of introvert or extrovert like a whole lot, and, you know, you just completely fit it to a T and you're very comfortable with that. Fair enough. But, you know, it's more for people, you know, who are still like finding out about themselves or whatever, and just like the idea that, like, you know, they think are introverted because, you know, perhaps most solo activities do recharge them, that sort of thing, and then they sort of restrict themselves in that way by being like, oh, you know, I'm not going to do that social thing, and, you know, so you sort of get into your own mind about it, being like, that's going to be draining, so I'm not going to do that or whatever. And, you know, maybe you cut yourself up from opportunities is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying as myself, someone who I guess would typically, well, I don't know if I'd typically be classed as introverted. I guess it kind of depends when you meet me, you know. If I'm tired, you'll probably class me as introvert. If I'm not tired, you might class me as an extrovert. You might class me as like a low energy extrovert, or no, you know. I'm not like hyper peppy or anything off the walls like that sort of thing. But I like to think I'm friendly and social. And social situations, I do like to talk, and I do like to listen and that sort of thing. I like to have conversation. Perhaps is the less one-directional way to put it. And I do like being around people. I do like learning about people and that sort of thing. Sorry, I need to have a sip of water. It's just the long and short of what I would say is like certain social things would charge me up, and some things would drain me. Like, I'm trying to think what things would, you know. Like there's a thing I'm doing with a friend, and we like draw stuff together basically. Kind of do it like each weekend. Well, I mean, we've already done it for like a couple of weekends now. It's basically whenever we got time on weekends, generally when we have time. Explicitly both of us to have time, and I find it a very energizing, you know, activities that you do. And you might be like, I don't know. I feel like you could argue either way. It's a social activity because you're doing it with someone else. You know, we're both like on a Discord call drawing together, and I'm like, yeah, okay, then it would be a social activity. But it's like, you know, drawing is very stereotypically like an introverted activity because you're focusing on a solo activity. It's not like it's like you're doing two solo activities next to each other, which, you know, does that count as introverted? Does that count as extroverted? I don't really know, but these classifications just like when you start using them that way, I suppose you could start reducing them from productivity. I suppose you start like not taking them for what they're meant to be, as like general ideas and to help communicate certain concepts. Is what they should probably be used for. But, you know, once you start to, I suppose, reduce and force things to fit that definition is kind of like when you should take a step back and be like, yo, you know, maybe we just don't use this classification anymore and just talk about it how it is, I suppose. I'll find different ways to express that sort of thing. I'm trying to think what else, you know, like pub quizzes, that sort of like style of thing. You know, only connect. Like watching quiz shows, and certainly love doing that sort of thing. So like any sort of like only connect or quiz show based activity, I'm just like absolutely, I could do that all day. You know, certainly. Escape rooms, like those sort of like logic based puzzle team activities, very much, you know, quite social. And I don't think you can argue that being like a non-social thing. I could do that like forever, continuously, and you know, to be like, you know, love hanging around people, I suppose, while doing something like that, and you know. I think it would be probably the first perpetual motion machine. You know, you can strap a battery to my brain or something while I'm doing a group activity like that. And, you know, I'd love it. I think, you know, up to a certain extent. You know, I wouldn't do it to like the point of exhaustion. You'd still get exhausted. But yeah, I'm not here to hate on the idea of like social fatigue or anything. Social fatigue is certainly definitely a thing. Like, I'm not sure if I've ever met someone who was not. Okay, I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if I've met people who are like completely any side of the scale. You know, I suppose because like inherently humans are social creatures. Well, okay, I guess it's kind of like a biased sample sizes now I think about it, because I'm very unlikely to meet someone who would never, you know, not be charged up, I suppose, but never get like some sort of energy back or from like an extrovert or social activity, like, you know, the 100% introvert or the 100% extrovert. But I suppose, you know, that you might criticise me here for being like, aren't you kind of like socially stereotyping what these definitions are in the first place? And, you know, we're all about proper like sort of citations of what they're meant to actually define. And you know what? I think you're fair enough in that sort of point. Basically, I guess the long and short of it is like, you know, I don't really know all that much about psychology in the end. Or is it sociology or psychology? I'm not really sure where the sort of like distinction comes in. Also, that's my phone. I don't know if my phone was saying anything interesting there. It was a reminder to take the bins out. It's okay, I already took the bins out. So don't you worry about that. Excuse me. Let's put Lily of the Valley down. Hello, Fauna. I feel like we haven't spoken to you, Fauna, for a while. Have you been? Apparently we have spoken to you because you haven't said anything. About us ignoring, yeah? I guess the question is what we can do now, because we don't really have Nickmal. Do we have Nickmal missions to do? Weeds, water plants, cell fruits, hit trees. I guess we'll... No, hit rocks. Sorry. I guess we'll do those. Fauna immediately deciding that she was not in the mood to play the organ today, which is completely fair enough, you know. I don't know. Introversion, extroversion. A sliding scale of... oh, I guess, you know, this, you know, bears another sort of like seed of discussion. The fact that if these sort of phrases and words are sort of like so illy defined, I suppose, in the first place, then sort of means they're probably not all that useful, are they? Or maybe they are, I don't know. Maybe they are pretty well defined is what I mean, not like very pretty are useful. Certainly I'm not going to say they're not useful. Words tend to inherently have some meaning, whether good or bad. Being able to derive any meaning from a word, as long as a word has like a definition or some sort of carries some sort of connotation or meaning. And I can't think of a case where a word would not be useful, I suppose, in that sense. I suppose a literal meaningless word, I suppose by definition has a lack of meaning, but I think it's a bit of a reductive and, you know, cop-out answer, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's more my sort of like criticism of like introversion, extroversion is not so much the actual definitions of words themselves. I mean, words are innocent in the end; they're just sort of concepts. More just like the human sort of direction towards them. I guess again, it sort of just goes back to criticizing stereotypes and sort of like anything sort of restrictive in that sense. By all means, if you want to sort of like clearly state someone you're like a social party animal and say you're extroverted, by all means, do use that word, because, you know, it helps you get the point across. You can use that word as well, even if you don't want to use it in a sort of like I recharge from social setting sense, and you want to use it from a the sense that you would be like, oh, you know, I just, you know, I'm outspoken. Oh, it's a meteor shower. How lovely. I suppose we'll take the time to sort of wish upon these stars. We haven't seen Celeste, have we? I don't think so. I've heard a very helpful tip to see if Celeste is here or not is to actually undo the radio exercises in front of the town hall. And if she turns up, if she's there while you're doing them, then that means she's on your island somewhere. So I guess I'll do them just in case she's in like a location which we haven't seen. But I don't think she is. At least I'm hesitant to say she is. Buttons, I guess. I don't know when that exact sort of switch happened from like introversion to extroversion, being from like introversion just meaning shy, to introversion meaning recharges the social battery from being by themselves. I don't know. Because there have been moments where my social battery has definitely been recharged by being around people. You know, where I was just like by myself being like, I want to hang out with someone like immediately. I suppose it certainly may happen less frequently, but yeah, again, I feel like you can spin that into fitting the introversion extroversion model, being like, oh, that's just, you know, you having like an overloaded, like overcharged battery, which you need to drain in some sense. I'm just like, oh, like, I guess. But now I'm starting to feel like my model is being you're overfitting your model to the data, is what I mean. Rather than just sort of doing the normal statistical thing and just being like, you know, it's not going to perfectly model every single situation. You should always be suspicious of any model which seems to have 100%, I suppose, fit rate, right? and it's even weirder because I feel like it's something which gets modelled up in public consensus quite a lot, especially with things like Myers-Briggs, you know. I feel like that heavily sort of leans into roles of introversion, you know, being like shy, and, you know, keeps yourself an extroversion being like speaking around other people, when it's a bit more complicated than that, isn't it? Certainly. Probably. Because, I don't know, doesn't that sort of like lead to situations of... I don't know, I'm trying to think. Of like inverted introversion and extroversion. Like it sort of says the idea that it can't exist of someone who likes to be around people but cannot... No, hold on. Because social batteries presumably are sort of like variable between person to person how fast they recharge. So doesn't it sort of just like, because then, you know, humans are assume falling on some sort of normal distribution. There are people who extremely love hanging out with people but cannot do it for like more than a very long time at all, right? I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Like, obviously there can be like actual reasons not happen. Well, what I'm trying to say is that they do. People like this do exist, rather than that people like this don't, which I feel like the introversion, extroversion definition sort of muddies the waters of. Because that person then is, you know, introverted, which feels like I don't know. It feels like a weird sort of like butchering of a word in a certain sense. But I guess that's my own sort of personal stereotypes of what introversion and extroversion are. I don't know. I'm not really sure if I'm articulating what I'm saying properly. Basically, I'm just sort of just saying like the definitions by themselves. You know, don't use them by themselves, that sort of thing, or like don't stereotype based off them. I don't really know what I'm saying. I just needed to fill up half an hour. I just been running on with like a automatic sort of like stream of consciousness. Anyway, long and short, I'm probably introverted. I guess what I'm saying, but I do love social things. So yeah. I don't really know where I was going with any of this. I don't really think I had much of a concept I wanted to say at the end of this. So I guess I'm going to round off this episode here. I don't think I even talked about anything interesting. But for now, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares, I greatly appreciate it. Join me, Dear Darling, Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.